Good evening, everyone. This is Srikanth Talluri. Welcome back to my talk show. Why problem solving? In today's episode number 4, is all about creative craziness. So creative craziness, as as the title sounds, right? What and how this creativity, how is it impacting the solutions, the innovation, the overall problem solving that we are delving into our day-to-day lives, as well as primarily into our professional lives, into the transformation that we're all talking about, the intelligent age that we're all stepping into. So where is creativity really impacting our journeys? We all are gifted with, these innate creative abilities, starting from a toddler age to a, infant, toddler, then the schooling, then to the college, and, it propagates the professional life, personal life, right? We all have all different approaches, out of way approaches, put together creative approaches, right, towards life. And this creativity, consciously or subconsciously, impacting our lives for sure in small time. That is in the industrial solutions, the industrial problem solving, or the social problem solving, that is governments and the NGOs. How it really, is playing a major role. Not many of us really realize, or maybe give or put focus upon, but it all begins with this creativity. So how do we develop this creativity? This is a big time question. A lot of people feel that I'm not really creative, or I'm not gifted with creativity, or maybe, I lack the creative, abilities to get into this kind of a job. Because the creative abilities that people perceive is mostly confined to those colors, sizes, the shapes, put together the user interface, or the front end, or the presentation part. Of course, that is presentation, is very important. And creativity in the presentation layer is, yes, very important factor. But in the back end, in a business setup, or in a problem solving team, team members, the way the work flows actually, right, has a lot of creative inputs or approaches, which basically form part of the story. This is beyond the look and feel that we perceive, in terms of the process, in terms of the policies, in terms of coming up with the rules, in terms of communicating, in terms of traveling with the team members, in terms of overall team orchestration, in terms of coming up with the architecture. As a whole, creativity drives the product stories, the innovation stories, the success, and the failure stories. So the significance of creativity is what, the main focal point of today's discussion, followed by the sources, small time case study, and the mindset problems, the hindrances that we overcome or we surrender to in terms of propagating this creativity. As we were discussing about the significance, it starts with innovation stories. Journey starts with creativity and ends with creativity. So the discovery, the problem discovery, and defining and designing, in deriving the building blocks, in developing and delivering, and across all the 6 phases, creativity becomes a mandatory ingredient for problem solving. And what are the sources of this creativity? See, the mindset is basically when I think that I am confined to a healthcare industry, or when I come from a logistics industry, or when I basically am into a mechanical or an automobile engineer, or maybe an aircraft engineer, or plane. And when we, basically resort to, these team exercises at job or, out of startups, we always look for sources within those boundaries. What our competitors are doing? Is anybody already doing this? Is anybody performing this kind of a approach or the problem? How they are doing? Yes. The observation, right? The observation, the discovery is confined. The boundaries are set to the respective industry or the discipline. This is the common mistake that most of us do, which, yes, is good to begin with, but a cross-disciplinary approach, that is, say I'm solving a problem for an aircraft industry, a small-time use case of creating the storage space for the air hostess or the flight crew. This is the aerospace industry problem, where space is a big constraint, even if it's a jumbo jet or a small-time chauffeur flight. The space that is actually defined for those machines, right, the flights, is limited, and the storage has to be designed and delivered efficiently in that respective space. So when I am given this problem, the common approach is, how the other airlines are doing, or how the other competitors are performing, and how, the storage is being addressed in or across the range of flights or the models that is existing. Yes, step 1, good. You got to understand, okay, how the space utilization is happening and how things are actually placed there. Good. But when we have to address this in a different way, or improve it, or completely revamp it with a new approach altogether, is looking at just the transportation of the flight industry alone is going to really help us? I don't think so. We'll have to venture out to other fields like hospitality, or could be, the spaces or the places where, could be real estate, but of course, where there is crunch of space, where space is a luxury, like metropolitan cities, like European towns or cities, where space is a luxury, where space is limited. So it could be a real estate industry or a discipline, but there you get a lot of details and inputs, the creative inputs, which can be borrowed, stealed, and which can be stolen into the aerospace industry. Our mothers, at kitchen, they apply a lot of creative approaches on the space utilization. My mother, I learned a lot from her, in my childhood about the space utilization within the kitchen. And my dad, of course, you know, we used to basically, help her as well as, plan the storage for the rest of the, you know, house along with my mother. So we learn a lot from this cross-disciplinary approach towards learning things. So my strong input here is that the sources of creativity comes from observation, observing the world around us, and not just the discipline that we are keen about or we want to pursue the career. Look for these sources outside your discipline. Look for these sources in your day-to-day life. Look for these sources in the shopping malls. Look for these sources in the hotels. Look for these sources when you're traveling in the trains, the buses, how storage is being planned effectively, right? What are those gaps that you find? What could have been better? Conceptually start thinking. This will, you know, recreate your or rewire your thought process. These inputs become your knowledge. These observations, right? The learning from these observations, they're all small-time case studies. They become your knowledge. And these knowledge packets will come to use in the near future as well as in the far future when you're actually performing a problem solving exercise, part of your job, or maybe your pastime activity or a startup, or any volunteer effort as well. But this ability, the creative ability, right, will only develop when we resort to, when we actually venture into continuous observation, continuous learning from these observations. So the sources of innovation is around us, the nature around us, the people around us, our homes, our residential communities, right? Lot of everywhere, wherever you go, our shopping malls. Observe, observe, observe. That is the first step towards learning and gaining this knowledge, creative knowledge. Now, we discussed, the storage use case for a flight. And definitely, when we actually start observing things outside our scope, all these inputs, we get. And we know, hey, maybe this could be a good idea, or this could be a good idea. I saw this in my neighborhood. I saw this in a small time, a tea or a coffee pod, in the airport. These guys were doing a tremendous job, or on a railway station, on the platform. What stops you from proposing this or putting this forward is again the mindset that, hey, maybe this cannot propagate into the aerospace or into my discipline. This is from a different discipline. What people will think about me. They might think crazy about me, or they might laugh at me, or they might, basically don't take me serious. That's a mindset problem. Trust me, the best of the best innovations happened when things were borrowed from the other disciplines. So thinking about putting things forward, thinking about proposing these observations, that's knowledge that you have gained from your observations, and over analysis, and unable to present them to your teams or maybe experiment, right? This will lead to the failures of the product stories. So the most important point is, yes, one is observation. That creates your creative abilities, that improves your creative abilities. But again, this craziness, don't let the crazy guy, stop or take a backseat in you. Put it forward. You don't have to really worry about what people will think. You don't have to worry about what, people accept it or reject it. Will it work? Will it fail? No, that is secondary. Go, put it forward, experiment. Look for the feedback. that is when you will be able to make a decision about the fitment of the solution or your creative input, right? So, bottom line, learn through observation, propose, put things forward. Don't hesitate to speak out. All right. So these are the two things which definitely will drive the creative craziness and lead to your success story, your team's success story, your company's success story, and ultimately, the problem solving that we refer to, right, is fruitful. So thank you for listening to me on this episode. And at Soil, right, a School of Innovation and Leadership, where we are more focused on the global problem solving, we follow these rules, approaches, right, in the last episodes where I was discussing about the ABCs of problem solving. The mindset that drives innovation. And today's episode about the creativity, right? So beginning the journey is important. Attempting is important. And then creating, okay, is important. And these, when you're resorting to this kind of a journey, the creativity plays a very important role in propelling your product or your journey. And in the next episode, I'm going to discuss about the digital transformation, the careers, okay? What kind of transformation are we anticipating in this decade? Where the intelligent, the artificial intelligence, augmented lives are now a reality. So I'm going to discuss more on, the industrial and the social applications of this transformation, the digital transformation, and the ABCs that we discussed in the previous episode, and the creativity, the craziness, the creative craziness. All these are applicable to the transformation journey, into our professional careers, right? So through this talk show, we are going to discuss more such topics, which forms the basics, the fundamentals, and of course the advanced topics as well in the upcoming season. Okay, so the first season will confine to 5 episodes, and the next season will be kicking off somewhere in the mid of October or early November. So please, follow the episodes, listen, like, comment, and share our work. This is helpful for everyone to create that mindset, and kick off your journeys. And at Soil, through our postgraduate program, through our pre-university program in the Innovation Leaders Series, and the FASTLABS, we promote, we create, we cultivate this kind of talent, the disruptive thinking, the disruptive innovators, and the disruptive leaders for this century, and God willingly, for the further the next centuries as well. So stay tuned, follow us, and I'll catch up with you in my next episode of Why Problem Solving with Srikanth Talluri. Until then, goodbye. Have a good week ahead. Bye-bye.